So the cure for a phobia is a tennis ball. An odd statement for me to start out with, but it's true. It turns out that some research has been done, what's going on in somebody's brain when they're having a phobic episode. Apparently they took some claustrophobics, stuck them in an fMRI, and so they're going, "Ah!" Right? Because it's close and it's making a lot of noise, and so they're having the phobic response to being closed in. And it turns out that one side of the brain would go, "Ah!" and the other side of the brain's going. So one side of the brain's going to be all lit up and all active, and the other side's going to be completely quiet. So what's that got to do with the tennis ball? If you're doing this, it's causing cross-cortical stimulation. Both sides of the brain are involved in the activity of passing a tennis ball back and forth between the hands, or watching a tennis ball go back and forth across the court. And that's physiologically incompatible with a phobia. You can't have a phobic response while your brain is doing something that doesn't allow it. Obviously, tennis ball sales in the phobic community have not gone up dramatically because, first of all, most people don't know that, and secondly, it's a bit more complex than that. But it does give you an idea of some of the simple kinds of things that can be done to change a fear or phobic response. My story about the young lady who had a fear of being touched by other people's feet. And so it's an odd fear, okay, an unusual one. And I explained to her that the only way to have that fear is to run a series of impulses through the same neural pathways each and every time. And then if you run it backwards, it scrambles things up. And so I said, imagine running the experience, your memory backwards, like rewinding a video. And she kind of smiled. And then I said, well, you know, what's feet backwards anyway? Teeth. Oh no, teeth. And she laughed. Okay, probably the first time ever she'd laughed about being touched by feet. This was in a group demonstration. She said, I'm not done yet, so come on up to the front of the group. I shook hands with her, and when I did, I hypnotized her. And so I left her hand sticking out in air like this. And I gave her a hypnotic command, which was that her unconscious mind was to resolve this fear, eliminate it, take care of it in any way that was appropriate for her at the same rate at which her hand moved up and touched her face. So her hand's moving little tiny increments. Now, she's about 16 or 17. She's crying, she's trembling. The other 50 teenagers in the room, you could have heard a pin drop. I think they all went into hypnosis too. And this is taking a little while. Somebody else came in early for the next presentation, so I gave her unconscious mind some instructions to finish up unconsciously, and when she had done that, her hand could drop. And then a week or so later, she wrote me an email and said that later that evening she went to brush her hair out of her face, but her hand wouldn't go all the way up. She wasn't done yet, and then later she could do this, and that she decided to go into psychology and practice hypnotherapy. Okay, so that's one way in which I've helped somebody eliminate a fear. Recently I had somebody who had a fear of thunderstorms, and what I did with her was something pretty different. So I started using a lot of humor to get her start to laugh about the whole thing about the thunderstorms. I got her responding to the idea of thunderstorms instead of being panicky to be a little irritated, and then I shifted that emotion into impatience, and then into something a little bit more like, well, okay, you know, it's just something I have to deal with. And so she's gone from checking the weather reports before she leaves home, and if it looks like there might be a storm, she wouldn't go, to telling me that there was a tornado watch going on. She said, I took the normal precautions, I went to bed that evening, went to sleep, and slept the whole evening comfortably. And so basically I had a conversation with her, I got her laughing, I got her a little confused, from which point I could then help her eliminate that fear. And so the reason I'm talking about all these different ways in which I might approach somebody is that people are unique individuals, and I do more than just read a script to them. It's more than a template that I try and fit to each and every person. I do something different with everybody. Yesterday, I had somebody who was afraid to swim for exercise because she never learned to breathe properly doing the freestyle. And so she said, well, what I want to do is wear a mask and snorkel, but I'm afraid people will be looking at me and judging me. And I said, yeah, they're going to be applauding. Okay. And I says, you know, if you're doing that, you've got at least one person who's going to be cheering for you, and that's me. And that helped shift it so that now she's going to go and wear her snorkel and mask when she's doing her exercise. And fear comes into so many different kinds of things. Her issue was exercising, and she came to me for weight control. So fear comes up as one of the things that was getting in her way. And so I'm dealing with a lot of fears, sometimes as the central focus, sometimes it's something that will come up as part of the whole complex of the changes that people need to make to accomplish their goals. So if you want somebody to tell you about your family, tell you about their family, you talk about your own, because they're going to start thinking about their family and their experiences when you talk about yours. To get a referral from me, you start telling Wesley stories because they're interesting. Oh yeah, did you know that a tennis ball is a cure for a phobia? People are going to get interested. They'll start thinking about how it might apply to them or their family or friends, and then they'll ask more about me. Wesley Anderson, Doctor of Clinical Hypnotherapy.